To understand what I'm about to tell you, you need to do something first. You need to believe in the impossible. Can you do that?
What do you desire that you can't have?
Now you should at least give a brother a moment to say something heroically clever.
You're the boy from the circus.
So I have this thing with rolls.
There's about a dozen ways that I could stop you right now. But I don't think I have to.
The staff chose me, and I choose you.
I started up a security firm.
Finally, a superhero team I can actually get behind.
In the future, my friends may not be heroes, but if we succeed, they will be remembered as legends.
Welcome to the DC TV report for the week ending Saturday, August 15th, 2020. I'm Little Eddie O'Hare, aspiring professional fanboy.
And I'm Sarah Netzley, academic by day, writer by night.
We're here to bring you recaps, news, and commentary for all live-action television shows based on DC Comics.
And this week, friends, we have for you one new episode, which is a season finale, and we have one truly outstanding retro pick.
Oh, it's something, all right.
It's retro. It's retro.
Sarah, welcome, all listeners. Yeah. This is quite the eventful week. We have some news that we're going to talk about we have some news concerning the show. Before we do that, I just want to say thank you all for listening. If you have a chance, if you haven't yet, please rate and review us on your podcast app of choice. That helps people find us. And also, if you really want to be helpful, we are part of Wicked Theory Studios, which has a Patreon, patreon.com/Wicked Theory. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us with our overhead. And there's a bonus podcast there called Ed Bonds with Bill, where I watch James Bond movies with our buddy Bill Sweeney. And most recently, I showed him the 1967 version of Casino Royale, starring Peter Sellers, David Niven, and Orson Welles.
What? I have so many questions about Orson Welles' choices. Just in general.
Well, I think, after the 50s, it was pretty much, everything he did, it's because he needed money to make his movies.
And I guess there's something kind of impressive about that. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. You got cash? Okay.
His last credited role is from he played the bad guy in Transformers, the movie.
Oh, I am aware. I am aware. What a wild career. Anyway.
Yeah. So Sarah, how are things? How are things in the Netzley household?
It is wild here, but hopefully I will actually be an academic by day again in 2 weeks. So the summer of weird is coming to an end, and we're going to enter a fall of weird. So, yay! Yay! How are things in your neck of the woods? I Willard Scotted you just then.
Holding up well. I'm managing. Yeah. I really miss going to the movies. But fingers crossed. I'm hoping things are going to open up soon. So we'll see. I
think this is the biggest difference between you and me. I occasionally am like, oh, that was nice. I wouldn't mind but it's not I think you have more of a drive for that. So I hope this works out for you.
We'll see. One thing, we should probably a little bit of housekeeping. So Stargirl dropped the finale was this week, and we're going to cover that in a minute. And next week we have Lucifer, the first 8 episodes dropping on Netflix. And we're going to plan to do the same thing we did for Lucifer season 4, which was that big giant extravaganza where we watch the whole thing in one weekend and then send you out an episode covering all of our reactions to each episode as we watch them. And then after that, there is a dearth of new content. And it doesn't look like we are going to have any new episodes until at least January, which is when the CW has announced that they're bringing back the shows that would have come out in the fall. So Sarah and I have made a decision that we are not going to be doing weekly episodes after next week.
Okay, hold for shocked gasps. Okay, continue.
However, we are not going to be abandoning you for 3 months. We're going to be switching to a monthly schedule. So we'll give you all the month's recaps, and it looks like that's going to be happening on the third weekend of every month. And we will have retro picks to talk about. We're going back all the way back to the very first live action adaptation of a comic book superhero, which is a serial. Sarah, do you remember serials? You're older than me, but I don't think you're that much older.
Do you mean like Lucky Charms or Frosted
No.
Flakes? Gee willikers.
No, movie serial. This is before television, where they decided, oh, let's do a TV show, but we'll release it in movie theaters once a weekend. And we're going to be covering the 12 chapters of The Adventures of Captain Marvel, which is a Republic serial from 1941, starring Tom Tyler and Frank Coughlin Jr. And yeah, we're going to be doing 2 episodes of that a month. So yeah, there's a great Blu-ray of that's put out by Kino Lorber, and all 12 chapters are also available to view on Amazon Prime currently.
Gotta love Amazon Prime coming through for us. Clutch.
Yeah. So please, yeah. So we're going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus, but we will be keeping up with everything that's going on, especially next weekend is Fandom. And
could you explain to the people at home what Fandom is?
So in lieu of Comic-Con, DC has created their own fan event, which is called Fandom, which is going to be I think they're saying 24 hours or like a 48-hour giant extravaganza of all new content announcements, and digital fan gatherings, and pretty much every major movie and TV property is going to be getting some kind of half-hour to 45-minute presentation, and that's all happening next weekend. And you can sign up to be a part of that, and it's all exclusive content that I think is only going to be available for like a day after it posts. So some exciting news that's going to come out of that. I think we may even get some news about Green Lantern on HBO Max.
The internet has been conversing about some Green Lantern chatter, so I hope it's all true. We will let you know.
Yes, we will. So yeah, that's been. Yeah, so that's what we have to look forward to, and I hope people stick with us, and they're able to survive without us in the in between weeks, but
us, we'll still be conversant. You know me, I'll still be conversant on Twitter. You know Ed, he'll remember that Twitter exists and then laugh.
Oh yes. Yeah, and we still have our Twitter account, and I'm sure our executive producer Bill Sweeney will be throwing out those posts just to remind people that we're out there. And yeah, so that's what's going on there. Sarah, is there anything else that we need to cover, or do you want to jump right into the episode this week?
I guess episode this week?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, did we forget anything?
I don't think
I
so.
think we're okay. All right,
All right, let's do it.
let's jump to the recaps. First up is Stargirl, season 1 finale, Stars and Stripes, part 2. Courtney and company went toe-to-toe against the ISA, trying to disable the sonic amplifier before Brainwave could brainwash half the country. Rick was hell-bent on avenging his parents by killing Solomon Grundy. Last-minute reveal, Pat's old landlord in Hollywood got a visit from Sylvester Pemberton.
All right. This show was delightful. I'm talking full season. This episode was very good. I am very glad that we got a Stargirl in 2020. What about you?
Yes, I'm very glad. I'm so glad that this ended properly. You know,
Uh-huh.
Doom Patrol I kind of felt cheated, and especially a lot of the CWs ended before they were supposed to. So I'm really glad that the last finale that we get before we um go into hiding is a proper finale.
And honestly, but for that last 20 seconds, it could have been a show like a series finale. It ended so happily. I actually kept waiting for the other shoe to drop that it was more brainwave stuff. Because it was just so like, oh, it's so aggressively Christmas happy. Oh my god! But yeah, it was a proper season. There were full arcs. Uh, People got the endings they deserved. Yeah, I was impressed with how it was all handled.
Yeah, and some bold moves in storytelling. I mean, just the first half of this episode is so front loaded with action. You know, just the fight scenes, and you know, even though they're taking place in dark and doldry dungeons, we can see what's going on. I thought the stunt work, especially in the Courtney scenes, you know, and also Solomon Grundy. This is one of the few times where you had Solomon Grundy and Stripe going toe to toe, and you had two CG characters, and I actually kind of cared, you know, which is something that's difficult to do in modern cinema.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, I will
and
admit I looked down at the runtime, and as they were wrapping up the big fight scenes, it was like they had half the episode left still, and I thought, what? It's kind of, but they managed to fill it out really well.
yeah, and let's talk about the big. So Chuck, the Chuck goggles got destroyed.
No, that was really sad. Poor Beth.
Poor Beth. And do you think that they're actually going to fix that, or do you think do you think Rick and Courtney are talking out of their asses?
Well, I think that this show is probably not going to let them remain unfixed, but it did feel a little like Courtney was like, "Oh, those goggles have gone to a farm upstate where they can run free. It's better for the goggles upstate."
Yes. Yeah, and Rick finally got his showdown with Grundy, and when you realize that Grundy kind of has the mind of a child, and he wasn't fighting back, and Rick had to stop. I don't know, that just hit me.
Yeah, that was effective. I've wished we had a little more Rick content in the weeks leading up to it, but that they saved up all the good stuff for this week's finale. So yeah, that was effective.
Yeah, and to me the real big twist, and you know, really how they were able to stop the ISA was Brainwave getting taken out by Yolanda. And Sarah, when you saw Henry Jr. show up in the dragon minion costume, did you think it was a trick?
For the briefest of seconds, I thought, "Oh, oh no, that doesn't make sense that he would have." Oh no! So it got me for a fraction of a second, in part because I wanted him and Yolanda to, they still had so many apologies, and I wanted the emotion there. But obviously it didn't make sense that he's just been living in the caves after being crushed by rock this whole time. So Yolanda, do not cross her. Just don't. She will slit your throat. She don't care. Yolanda don't care. She will.
Yeah.
No, that was good. That is an interesting, and I don't know what season 2 is going to bring for her, but it would be interesting to see a plot line where she, because she has been sort of focused and fairly aggressive and also did the murder, does that rebound on her, and does that lead to Courtney being concerned about her? I just that possible tangent for that character is really interesting, but I love that whole scene. You have to be so sure of yourself to murderate somebody who wears the friend of a theoretical, or the face of a friend. I'm always impressed with somebody who's just like, oh, you're my best friend, throat slash, yeah, shapeshifter, knew it. Did you know it? Did you? Were you sure? And she just really, no hesitation, Yolanda.
Yeah. I gotta say, I was very angry with the writers of the show for about 90
Really?
seconds.
Okay.
I fell for it like, no, you can't bring him back. You can't. That death was so impactful, and I was and then when she figured out and just slashed his throat, and it turned out to be his dad, I was like, yes, that was such a cool way to handle it.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't just me who had a moment of, oh gosh, is that, wait a second. So good. I'm glad it wasn't just me.
And I think it really shows just how really horrible Brainwave is.
Yeah,
just
he really is a bad person.
Yeah. He needed killing.
He needed killing.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting to see Yolanda and Rick kind of, switch perspectives. Where she's pushed to the point where she felt that she had to kill somebody, and he wanted to kill someone, but found that he couldn't go through with it.
Yeah, I feel like the show has been sort of busy with a lot of different characters and things spinning along. I wish we had great Yolanda and Rick specific episodes, and then I feel like they kind of got pushed to the background the last couple weeks. I think all of that would have been just a little more effective if we'd had a little bit more time with them, but that is a minor quibble. Overall, really, really well done. I did think the zeal of the bad guys to kill the JSA again was a good line. That was a good villain line.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, like, who's still out there? Like, is it possible that that Sportsmaster and Tigress made it out alive?
That actually, I have here. So Cindy and Grundy and the Gambler are alive, and ... question mark. So I just wasn't sure where some of the rest of them ended up.
Yeah, and also, like, the Fiddler disappeared. The Fiddler was not in this last episode. I don't know, if that was kind of an oversight, if there was, because you remember she had that one moment in the penultimate where she talks with her son, tells him to buck up, and then this episode starts with him smacking the bully with his tuba. But we didn't actually see the character show up in that final showdown.
Well, did I have a fever dream that she got a violin bow to the eye?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
She was taunting Tigress.
That's right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I've forgotten that.
I was kind of expecting them to find her dead in her office or something, but they just didn't take time for that. So I think her son maybe doesn't know yet, or else he does, and that's why he beat that kid with the tuba. And I want to take a step back for a second and say, the blood on the tuba, amazing. Oh my god. Also, there was zero reason for him to be in his marching band uniform. You put that on to perform in, and that is it. They're not comfortable to hang out. You don't wear them around school. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, Stargirl. Okay.
That's something that only happens.
The blood on the tuba, amazing.
Yeah, that's something that only happens in movies and TV shows about high school.
Yes. Yes.
But so yeah, and let's talk about those teases. We had 2 teases for villains for next season.
Yes.
So which do you want to know about first, Sarah? Do you want to know about the Shade or Calypso?
You know what? Dealer's choice.
Mm. So the Shade was the first one that we saw. So I'll talk about him first. And you saw the top hat and the cane, and the black clouds that kind of do, and you saw the kind of like the silhouette, and you realize that he's in that painting of the ISA. It's just he's faded, very dark to see. I'm very excited that we're going to get the Shade,
Mhm.
because he was one, I think I mentioned he showed up in the Flash, in an episode of the Flash, and he was like a one-off freak of the week villain. um and his powers are that he can control shadows, and he can turn day into night. uh so he's that type of bad guy. But and for a long time he was a golden age Flash villain, and was kind of that throwaway. But James Robinson wrote Starman in the 90s, and James Dale Robinson is a producer on Stargirl. So he's in the writer's room. So I'm sure that he's going to be handling that character. He made him much more of an elegant, stately, immortal gentleman,
Mhm.
um, who kind of toes the line between being a hero and a villain. He's one of those. He really likes to twirl a mustache, but he has a sense of fairness to him, and um, uh, really kind of. It's not that he's a bad guy. It's more that he'll just do whatever he wants to suit his needs.
Mhm.
So I'm interested to see how they explore that. And it's really a giant shift in ideology from Icicle and all of the crazies that were in the ISA this season.
So it wasn't the hat, is what you're saying, because that was the only thing I could think of. Was
Yeah.
that the hat?
Yes, and Eclipso. I can't believe they teased two villains, but the idea that we're going to get Eclipso next season. Um, so that gem, that purple gem that Shiv holds up at the end, um, uh, that contains Eclipso, who is he's basically a spiritual embodiment of the wrath of God, very much like the Spectre.
Okay.
And he was a bad guy of the Spectre, but really kind of fights the Justice Society and the Justice League. And so he's an incredibly powerful being, um, who can also possess people. Like he takes on hosts, and there have been times where he's tried to infect Superman like a parasite, and then give him all of these world destroying powers and try to take over the world. So you have Eclipso is incredibly dangerous, and I have no idea how they're going to do that on a TV budget.
I was on a CW budget.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's
and they're
interesting. I don't know either of those villains, and so I figured those were some pretty big Easter eggs there
Mhm.
at the end, and I trusted that you would explain it to me.
So yeah. Eclipso and the Shade. Those are some fun characters that we have to look forward to on Stargirl.
Cool. Cool,
Um,
cool.
if and when we get that season two. Sarah, what do you think? You think like it might be a summer series, or do you think they?
It I assume it's gonna be the same episode count, presumably?
Yeah, I'm presumably. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know if that would be sustainable for 22 episodes.
Yeah. It's a great summer show because it is so bright and bouncy. So yeah, I would like to see it stay. If we get it a year from now, great. Yeah, that sounds great. If we get TV a year from now, great. That sounds great.
Yeah, and let's also say, the real hero at the end of the day, the guy who
Oh,
who
100%. Say it. Say it. Say it. Say it.
Mike Dugan.
Mike, can I join the JSA now? I straight murdered that guy. Am I in? Oh my god. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna take over he's gonna, I mean, and he brought the dog with him. He was true to his word. He was gonna protect the dog, and he did.
He did. He absolutely did. Yeah, that was when the truck pulled up and shattered that poor man made of ice. You got to be careful when you're made of ice, not to get bumped into. It's bad. I
Poor
truly
man.
didn't know who was going to be.
He was a megalomaniac. All right.
No, fine. But I truly had no idea for that split second who was going to be behind the wheel. They showed Mike, and I was just like, yes, everything is coming together. So, yeah, that was good for Mike. What a season he had.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And that's the other thing is weird. Like, I wonder how much of a time jump are they gonna do? Because I feel like all the actors are gonna be like, all these kid actors are gonna be like 3 years older by the time we get the next season. But yeah, Stargirl. Cool. All right. You ready to move on to the other thing we watched this week?
Yes, I do have a little bit of news for
yes.
Stargirl,
Yeah,
before we
Stargirl
do
news.
that.
Go ahead.
And also we didn't really talk about Starman, but please, do you think I don't know Jeff Winger's voice? I know you didn't watch a lot of Community, Ed, but you try to hide who that was, but I recognize that voice anywhere. That is Joel McHale.
Of course.
So I will be excited that if he comes back next season.
Yeah.
But the show closed with Mbop by Hanson, which is a delightful song, and I will fight anybody who tells me it is anything but good. But my thought when it started playing was, this has to be a personal Jeff Johns thing, because it's so weird and so specifically 90s and not really connected to anything. Ooh. So sure enough, there's reporting afterward that Mbop actually helped Jeff Johns cope after his sister's death, that the lyrics about saying goodbye and things like that were really meaningful to him. And so to close this show with that song for the first season, I thought was really, really nice. So if you were curious about why Mbop, it's because it has some real resonance for Jeff Johns as he coped with the loss of his sister. So I thought that was a nice fact. And also, I'm assuming a lot of the music choices this season were based sort of on, Jeff Johns' memories or what the actors kind of felt like the characters resonate with. So they did some interesting things with music all the way through. So the other little bit of news for Stargirl before we move on is that production is actually going to stay in Georgia because it's going to be a CW show. I know some folks were worried that it was going to move up to Vancouver and get that Vancouver gray. And it's not, this is a farmland show, right? So it's going to stay in sunny Georgia, which is awesome. I also wonder if that means like Black Lightning crossovers, because that's the only other show that films there. So, but the other question was, of course, are you going to have budget cuts because you're going to the CW? And the showrunners kind of punted a little bit and said, well, we're going to have fewer startup costs. Like, we had to design Stripe and we had to get the Grundy design, and we're not going to have those costs next season. So it's, we're still going to have the cinematic quality you love from us. To which I say,
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, Jan.
Yeah. And we thought we were going to get Firestorm in every episode of Legends of Tomorrow instead of like every other. No, it's like every third episode. They do the same thing with Steel now. So yeah. I don't think Nate's just a guy who hangs out on the Wave Rider. So yeah, I think the telltale will be how often we see Stripe. We see the robot actually in action. So, and to be fair, he, I don't think we saw that robot used in every episode this season.
No,
but it was enough,
Well, if they have to save it up so the big robot can fight Grundy every once in a while, that's fine. That's totally worth it to me.
All All right. So we got so that's it for Stargirl, and that's it for the news, right?
Yes. Oh well, not that's it for the Stargirl news, but we have a little bit of news.
Stargirls. News.
Should
Okay.
we-
Well, yes. Yeah. So let's move into news for the shows.
Okay. We have just a couple. Let's start with DC Universe. I'm pausing so Ed can drop in a mournful song here. No.
I'm probably just gonna use the Titans theme.
Oh, fine. I want you to. I was hoping for a dirge, but okay, you do you. DC Universe R.I.P. Right?
Oh, sort of. I mean,
Sort of.
Yeah. I mean, DC Universe original content. R.I.P. Let's put it that way.
So here's sort of how it happened over the past week. First, there were the announcements of mass layoffs at DC Universe as well as DC Comics. And the DC Comics is a whole other piece that, Ed, if you want to talk about, let's do that. But DC Universe wise, that seemed like the first death knell. And then the official names for Titans and Harley Quinn on Facebook changed from DC Universe's Titans to DC's Titans. And some eagle-eyed fans were like, wait a second, that seems, And then we got the official word that DC Universe original content is going to be folded over into HBO Max. Now, where does that leave DC Universe, Ed?
Yeah. So Jim Lee confirmed that DC Universe is not going away, because they're still gonna have all the community stuff that's there, and the comics. I think they have something like 25,000 titles. So it feels like they're going to be folding that into something similar to the Marvel Unlimited app, which is Marvel's comics app. And you're still getting I think all new issues of DC end up on of DC Comics end up on the DC Universe app 6 months after their publication. So if you're a comics reader, it's still a great resource. I don't know if the price point's going to be the same. I don't know if the back catalog of movies and TV shows are still going to be there. But it will be there in some form in the future going forward. And Jim Lee did an interview with Hollywood Reporter, and he said, that's something that they're going to be rolling out. I wouldn't even be surprised if you didn't hear more details about that during the Fandom event next week.
Yeah, so I guess this is kind of a stay tuned to see official words, but for me, I'm kind of curious because I subscribe to both services. So how I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
What a
yeah,
mess.
but I mean, basically, this confirms that Titan season 3 will be on HBO Max, and probably HBO Max alone.
Yeah. Well, so now if we just could get a date on, I don't think Titan season 3 had even started filming. Had it?
I don't know. I was in the sense that they might have started filming, but they definitely paused at least.
We're gonna have so many of those kinds of stories coming up.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Yeah. Because usually Titans is a fall show, so it would make sense that they'd probably be filming that now, but yeah. All right.
Yeah. So last little bit of news before we move on to the retro pick is for Lucifer. And just a reminder, friends and loved ones, that Lucifer is back next week, dropping on Netflix. And it's the first half of season 5, which is 8 episodes. The back half of the season, they haven't announced when that's going to be. And in part, I suspect it's because the finale actually isn't done shooting. In fact, Tom Ellis said in an interview today that they have about 60% of the finale left to shoot, which is got to be frustrating. Can you imagine being so close to finishing your season? You're on the last episode and you're almost halfway done with it, and you had to shut down for months. Ugh, it's brutal. So that's what's going on with Lucifer back half of the season, but the first half of season 5 is dropping so soon, friends. So soon. I'm very excited.
Yes, I'm excited. I can't wait. Yeah, and Yeah. So, I can't wait for that long weekend that we're gonna have to enjoy it together. All right. So that's it for the news. Sarah, there was something else we watched this week.
There sure was.
Yeah. And that was Supergirl. Released November 24th, 1984. After losing the Omega Hedron, Kara Zor-El traveled through inner space and landed on her cousin's home planet Earth as Supergirl. In Midvale, Illinois, the Omega Hedron landed in the lap of a witch named Selena, who immediately hatched a plan for world domination. For some reason known only to the screenwriter, Supergirl took time out of her search to enroll in Midvale High as Linda Lee and hang out with Lucy Lane and Jimmy Olsen. Last minute reveal, Supergirl returned with the Omega Hedron and relit Argo City.
All right. I just need to say, Faye Dunaway. That's all. Wait, second thing, Faye Dunaway's wig.
That was a wig?
I assume so. I think it deserved second billing. So I had seen this movie, I think probably when it came, maybe if not in theaters, then, rentable afterward. And I remembered very little, very, very little. And maybe that's for the best because I got to experience it like it was all brand new. And I just got to say, watching the hunky gardener just crawl around as various wheeled devices stalked him really was a highlight of my week.
Yes. Yeah, I had a similar situation. I saw this on VHS. Probably rented it when I was like 4 or 5. So I had a vague recollection. And I've seen dribs and drabs of it. On cable you might catch like half an hour or something like that. But I hadn't watched it all the way through until this week. And oh boy. Um Yeah, and my question, you mentioned Faye Dunaway. The real question here, is this a spin-off of Superman or is it a sequel to Mommy Dearest?
That is a joke that happened in my living room. Yes. That was very like no wire hanger energy. Yeah. I just want to pal around though with her sidekick. Bianca, was it?
Yeah, yes, Bianca, her sister.
Bianca, Team Bianca, ride or die Bianca. Bianca just sits back with a cigarette and is like, I don't know what's happening here, but I'm gonna go along. I'm gonna allow it. Amazing.
Yeah. She finds out, hey, let's start a coven. I don't want a coven. No, we're starting a coven. Why do you want to start a coven? Margaritas.
Move to this abandoned amusement park with me. Okay.
Yeah. So much. Faye Dunaway in the throw. Mommy Dearest is like that. That's when Faye Dunaway just kind of like fell off the map, right? Like that's
yes.
When people stopped taking her seriously, and her career was really kind of like just on the downslope. And this is like 2 or 3 years after that movie, and it could not have helped.
No, but I will say she committed to the part, and I feel like she's the only person who understood what kind of movie they were making. Right? She seemed to get, I shouldn't say the only person, but she committed in an impressive way, and she made it camp, and it was perfect. Faye Dunaway was perfect.
And I think that's kind of the thing, is there's a disconnect in this movie. And I think to understand that, we need to go back to the 70s with Alexander and Alias Salkind. and kind of explain um, what was going on with the Superman franchise at this time. Um, so they purchased the rights to the film rights to Superman in the mid '70s. They produced Superman the movie, and they were trying to film Superman 1 and 2 at the same time, and then they finished one, fired Richard Donner, hired Richard Lester to finish Superman 2, which was also successful, and then Superman 3 came out with Richard Pryor and was a disappointment. And this was developed as they were finishing filming Superman 3. And I think this movie really shows how important Richard Donner and Tom Mankiewicz were to Superman the movie, and how it's a miracle that movie is as good as it is.
Yeah, that is, yes, indeed.
And how when you left the Salkinds to their own devices, and let them do something on their own without even American filmmakers, nothing against Jeannot Zwark, who's the French director who directed this. Previously, I think his biggest credit was Jaws 2. Um, just there's kind of a disconnect with the character, and it's a pity because I think the Faye Dunaway is playing it really camp, and Helen Slater is really trying. She's really trying to get that sincerity that Christopher Reeve had in his movie, and I think the problem is when 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 you have a situation where not everybody buys in, it kind of falls apart, and you
Yeah.
lose that verisimilitude that the first two Superman had.
Well, and I also think she wasn't well served by the script. I think Christopher Reeve got to have a little more substantive issues. I understand that the MacGuffin was, we need to get this energy sphere back. Sure. But so much of it, I mean, I was a little frustrated. Oh, y'all knew this was coming, right? I was a little frustrated that the movie with the female superhero and the female villains kind of ended up being a fight over a boy. Like, really? That's really.
This is the '80s. This is all they knew how to do.
I know, and
Yeah.
it is very much of its time. And today, if we were to get a Supergirl movie today, I have to believe there is no way they set it up as a fight over a pretty himbo who spouts Shakespeare poetry under the love spell made of a spider. That I remembered from watching it in the '80s. That stuck with me in a visceral way. Spider inside a nutshell, and then you drink it? No, oh baby, no. So, so that it was interesting, as you say, as an artifact of its time, but it made the work that Helen Slater was doing, which was good. She's a good, well, on Earth she's a great Supergirl. Like, she was a great look at what I can do and the joy of that, but the we have to do right, and I have this responsibility and this and that was fabulous. I love that part of the super ethos, but the stakes, as you say, she enrolled in an academy. Also, Ed, where did her super costume come from in the spaceship? How does she change? Is she magic to change her hair? I don't.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I think there's a list of things that have to happen. Basically, like, we want this, and this, and this, and basically they did not. And this was written by David Odell, was the screenwriter on this, and he and Jeannot Zwark, after making Supergirl, the following movie, the Salkinds brought them back to work together on Santa Claus the movie, and pretty much both the writer and director were banished to television for the rest of their careers.
Is it weird that you said Santa Claus the movie and my brain went, oh no, that all fits together?
Yes.
No, I see that.
So yeah, I think it's just she has to have the costume. We don't need to explain why. they do mention somehow she knows that her cousin lives on Earth and that he's Superman.
Uh-huh.
And then she shows up and immediately has a female version of the Superman costume. I guess you could just say that's just Kryptonian garb for when they're on another planet or something like that. You know,
Sure.
because to be fair, in Superman the movie, they don't really give an explanation for the suit. He just, he spends 12 years with Marlon Brando in the Fortress of Solitude and then just emerges in the blue suit and flies to Metropolis. So, I can give them a little bit of leniency here. I think part of the thing is you have Argo City, which is just there in the middle of inner space, and they don't really explain what it is or what its connection to Krypton is. And you can kind of understand that because that would just be long, boring exposition. But it also kind of leaves you with like, what the hell is going on here? And you really only understand that if you were reading Supergirl comics in the 70s.
Yeah. Well,
It-
I just the hair change, and so and let's also talk about the personality change. When she is on Argo City, which looks like a terrible place to live because there are no walls anywhere.
yeah,
Yikes.
it's a giant hippie commune in a biodome. Yeah, it's
Pass. She is a child. She is so childlike. And then she lands on Earth and she is level-headed and responsible, and she's like a 40-year-old matron. And then she also knows how to fake an admissions letter on a typewriter. And then she ends up in the Phantom Zone and is like, "What is a train?" I don't. There was so little consistency. It was.
well, maybe here's an explanation. And Sarah, you're the romance writer,
Uh-huh.
so you maybe just the sight of Peter O'Toole immediately diminishes her IQ. She's so enthralled by his presence that she just goes gaga and um kind of no, is it you buying this?
I mean, if anybody in that movie is going to do it, it is Peter O'Toole. So if it's going to, and it really, you're right, it does happen when she's in proximity to him and his golden leonine majesty. So yeah, you know what? Let's assume that's what it is. The O'Toole effect.
The O'Toole
And poor
effect.
Ethan, with his strong jaw and his, I guess this was hot for the 80s face, just doesn't have the same, brain numbing hotness. Better luck next time, Ethan.
Yes, yeah, and this isn't fair, but Hart Bachner, who played Ethan, the whole time watching this, I was like, "Oh my god, that's Ellis from Die Hard. He made another movie."
I didn't recognize him from anything else. I just know that in my mind it would have been better if it had been Bruce Campbell. But I think that about most people. You'd be
But
better if you were Bruce Campbell.
So like I'm wondering, and this is also like, is this a prequel to Die Hard? I'm wondering, after this interaction and getting all his brain Swiss cheesed by the witch and meeting Supergirl, and her going away, does he get jaded, give up the gardening business, go into mergers and acquisitions, and 4 years later he just walks up to a terrorist and goes, "Hans, Bubby, I'm your white knight."
I mean, if he did, who would blame him? He was mind controlled. He was dressed in a velvet suit like a fancy boy. Like, that guy's going to need some therapy. That poor man. If he turned into a corporate scummy terrorist sympathizer who couldn't resist the pull of Hans Gruber, whomst among us can judge him? He was terrorized by a not caterpillar earth mover. I was grateful for that as somebody who lives in, Cat's backyard. And then bumper cars, 80s football bumper cars. Oh my God. Amazing.
Yeah. And back to Peter O'Toole quick.
Always.
Peter O'Toole, one of the I mean, one of the great actors of his generation, and ends up in Supergirl, kind of functioning in the same way Marlon Brando did. Although I'm sure he didn't get Brando's money. Um, uh, and yeah, and watching this, he seems like he's in a totally different movie. And also, he plays Zoltar, who created Argo City, and he's just playing around with the power source in order to make fake trees. Um, he's a terrible leader. Am I right?
Terrible. Terrible. Don't put that guy in charge of anything.
And also, once the Omega Hedron's gone, he is so quick to put himself in the Phantom Zone. And just the way that he says those lines, "Oh, for you will only suffer a few days, but I will be in pain forever." Just basically like, I'm getting out of here. I'd rather be alive than with you people. So
He is terrible, and that city needs to be in some kind of receivership while they sort out its leadership, because wow.
but he does sacrifice himself at the end. Yeah, and he also, I feel like, does make the most of that, and there is kind of a Shakespearean feel where his stuff, it's weird, he has kind of like a cult leader vibe, but it feels sincere to me.
Yeah, it is very 80s cult. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Um yeah. So I do love that these movies consistently brought in beloved older actors and just made them do insane things. Just insane.
Yes. Let's talk about our supporting characters.
Oh, let's.
So Maureen Teefy as Lucy Lane, and Mark McClure returns as Jimmy Olsen. Um, I buy that Lois Lane has a younger sister, and I actually think Maureen Teefy did a great job. Um, she seems like a little bit of, I don't know if tomboy's the right word, but
A very strong lesbian energy. She was just that like plucky, like kid sister. Like she vibrated with a different energy than everybody else in the movie, and I loved it. She was great.
Mhm.
Maureen Teefy, for the record, Juilliard trained.
Oh, as is Christopher Reeve.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Like, the moment, because Christopher Reeve was meant to be part of this film. Um, there are rumors that he was a cameo, but according to Jeannot's work, and I listened to the commentary. Listeners, I did this for you. I listened to the commentary track with Jeannot's work. Um, and he explained that originally, Christopher Superman was going to welcome Supergirl to Earth, and that basically the Zoltar bit was going to be Superman, had been hexed by Selena and had grown old, and basically he sacrificed himself to give Supergirl the extra power boost that she needed to beat Selena. He wasn't going to die, but basically he was going to be taken out of it. And Christopher Reeve read this and decided, no thanks, I'm out. And bullet dodged. But instead he's reduced to just being an image on a poster in Lucy Lane's room. And what's weird
And
is,
a news item, Superman off world fighting
yeah,
blah blah blah. So
which actually does track, because it says an intergalactic mission, so that could be the announcement that he's left Earth. And this actually is the bridge. This movie bridges Superman 2 and Superman Returns in some weird,
okay,
shocking
okay.
way. So, yeah, yeah, and that's how they explain that he's off-world, and why he doesn't show up in this movie. But for some reason, my 4-year-old brain remembered that it wasn't a poster on a wall, that you actually saw a statue of Christopher Reeve's Superman, and that's what she saw. So it's weird how like memory plays tricks on you.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I
Well,
thought that
it was a
this movie,
really good poster.
yes, it was, yes, it was. And Mark McClure showing up for a paycheck. Evidently he's the only cast member who actually liked the Salkinds. Um, and was cheap enough to show up in this movie. And I'm glad he's there. So Sarah, let's get into the sexual politics of this movie.
Oh,
Um,
let's.
um, is there a reason that all of the women in this movie seem to really have a thing for older men?
Let's check the age of the writers.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
um,
uh, in my notes, I have jotted down Supergirl, or I'm sorry, Superman, but make it Porky's. And that bothered me a little. Like, you didn't have a scene where Christopher Reeve practices kissing himself in the mirror. So there, yeah, the gender politics of all of this is wild. Just
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, and I know like Jimmy Olsen's meant to be like 19 in the first movie, and you could kind of see, okay, maybe he can go out with a high school senior. But 6 years later to have that character have a romantic fling with a girl who looks much younger than him. I don't know, the whole Lucy Lane Jimmy Olsen romantic storyline felt a little creepy to me.
Yes, concur. Especially because
Okay.
they just, as I said, that is not a vibe that I got from that character. That was weird. I also super love
Yeah.
when Lucy jumps into the runaway crane to try to stop it,
Mhm.
and she is knocked out, and Supergirl flies away with the boy and just leaves her friend and roommate passed out in the cab of that equipment. Peace, Lucy. You okay, right? You got this? Because I got a boy. Oh my god.
Yeah. And all of Ethan's wooing of Linda, I'm sure none of that is aged well. I don't even think
No.
it was proper in 84.
I feel like it was predatory because he was under a love spell, but also he was being predatory. Like, the whole thing is so gross. And it's so gross that it's the whole plot.
Yeah. So you had
Now,
some
that
weird.
said, I do love it when somebody kisses somebody in a secret disguise and is like, oh, well, you're Linda. Like, when you recognize that is a soft spot for me. So I did like that, except that all of it was creepy and awful. So make of that what you will.
Yeah. And but you did have the effects were, I mean, you had the flying effects, you had that weird aerial ballet, which is like, we want to give her a different flying style than Superman.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know quite how I feel about that. I think some of it worked, some of it didn't. That they were really kind of pushing the term, well, let's have a wind monster so we don't actually have to show the monster.
Yeah.
Seemed like really cutting corners. And the climax when Supergirl is supposed to be in the clutches and they just put two plates and just stretch them. That was some of the worst effects in a Hollywood movie I have ever seen.
Uh-huh.
Not exaggerating here. Ugh. So, yeah, this is the kind of thing like you watch as a completist.
Mhm.
And there's really no other reason to submit somebody else to this. You know, I'm going to say this is one of those movies that I watch because so I watch so you don't have to. Um,
Well, and I do think it is fun to see, especially since we are in an era where we have more female superhero fronted movies, right? We have Wonder Woman, we have Captain Marvel, we have Black Widow that maybe is coming to a theater near year, maybe coming to Disney Plus for some extra money. I don't know. Like, we'll see. We'll see. And it's so interesting to me to see the way Wonder Woman had a love interest. Captain Marvel did not. Um, Black Widow, the trailers that I've seen don't look like there's going to be a lot of love interest. So it's so interesting to me that you look at this movie and how focused on girlish fixation with a boy, right? And womanish. I
mhm.
don't mean to infantilize that. And then you compare it to the kind of female superheroes we're getting now. It is really interesting to see the juxtaposition, and I also kind of understand. I mean, I'm not saying this is a when people think about female superhero movies, female-led superhero movies, is this what they're thinking of, like, prior to Wonder Woman and the others that have started coming out since then? And if so, I can kind of understand. Of course, comic fans and of course moviegoers, looked at it differently than the other types of superhero movies because it was so slight, I guess, compared to
Yeah,
Superman,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, and
And what I also think is interesting, I'm sorry, I want to say this before I forget because I meant to say this earlier. If you look at Supergirl, the TV show, Supergirl's love life is a part of it sometimes, but not nearly as much as it could be, and not nearly as much as it is, I think, with the male superheroes. So it's interesting that they've really moved away from that when this movie is like 85% men. Uh, to what Supergirl the TV show does to what the today's female superhero movies do. Just really, so that's another reason to watch it, is kind of to see, if I may, quote the Hamilton, look at where we are, look at where we started. Like, it's just interesting to see the progression. So, what were you going to say?
yeah, yeah, no, no, and you're right. Like, this movie was held up as the reason you can't do a female superhero movie. You know, it was this, and then later the Halle Berry Catwoman and Elektra as like the three examples. And
Yeah.
it's not that people won't see a female superhero movie; it's that people won't see a bad female superhero movie.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
this is where my I bang the drum of representation behind the camera. I think a big
mhm,
difference is women who wrote and directed the more recent movies. Catwoman was not made. Catwoman is one of the most male gazy things I have ever seen. Supergirl, obviously, I mean, you joked about it. Like, everybody's fixated on older men. Like, it's if you had a woman writing Supergirl in 1984, I promise you, it looks a little different because
yeah,
so much of that is so steeped in a male gaze and a male perspective, and that's it is what it is. But I've just now
mhm,
blown way past funny 80s movie. Look at that
yeah,
circle of Faye Dunaways surrounding Helen Slater into a bigger conversation. But
yeah,
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 it's interesting.
yeah,
I'm glad
yeah.
we watched it. I'm really glad we did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am too. One other tidbit that I found from that commentary, is that one of the big models that they used for this movie was the Wizard of Oz, and you know, it's a fish out of water story. And that's why she's going up against a witch, and part of that
Oh,
is, you know, Superman was going up against mad scientists and alien threats. And you know, in the comics, Supergirl did have some supernatural foes. And she was more inclined to go up against them than Superman, when she wasn't a part of the Legion of Superheroes.
hmm.
Um, but that they would go straight on. And the thing that is interesting is it's like Wizard of Oz, but it's reversed, where she instead of, you know, a normal girl getting thrown into a magical land, it's the girl leaving the magical land, and Earth is her version of Oz.
Okay.
um which I think is an interesting take. And yeah, and to me it's just kind of an execution. And so there is so much potential here. And it just doesn't come together. Um
And can we talk about the moment when she triumphantly landed on top of a Popeyes. That's so weird.
Yeah, so this was
Also,
filmed.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, this was filmed at Pinewood Studios, which is the studios where they shoot the James Bond movies. And because they were in London, they had to build a Midwest American town. All that whole town was a standing set.
BT Dubs, did you notice where Midvale is on the map?
Illinois.
Oh, not just Illinois, exactly where I live. Like exactly. We looked at where Peoria was on the map, and then we're like, is Midvale basically Chillicothe? Is that like we were looking at it is where I live. So I will say for a small Midwestern town, they didn't do a bad job in the 80s. That is fairly very small town accurate. The really big cities she would fly over looking for the orb, unless she was just going to Chicago every day. I'm not sure what was happening there. But, but yeah, I had no idea Midvale was basically where I go to the mall, essentially. So it was wild.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, so I guess I live in Midvale now.
See,
And
now you.
I'm not happy about that because they are such terrible Samaritans. Those Midvaleans just watched that poor drugged man wander through the streets. Get out of the street, you hippie! Help him! Help him out of the street! Don't just yell at him. He's being chased by machinery. Pull him out of the way. What is wrong with you people?
And Jimmy Olsen, the jaded city slicker. Oh no, you don't want to help him. He's probably got a gun. It's.
And then Jimmy Olsen later on saying to Lucy, now is not the time to express your opinion. Jimmy, you work for a newspaper. What? Jimmy Olsen may be the villain of this movie as I think about it.
This is why he's still a photographer.
I also love that bumper car flight was clearly supposed to be that Clark and Lois flight, right? Except it was a billion times less sexy and a billion times weirder. It's just, they tried to take this, they did it like a mimeograph copy, right, of Superman, and everything came out a little blurry and weird and sad. It's oh my gosh.
But Helen Slater still on Supergirl, still ending up being a part of that. So I think things kind of worked out. Oh, all right. I think we've talked enough about this. So are you ready for our winners of the week?
Absolutely. I feel like we're gonna have the same winner of the week.
Ooh, okay.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I thought it was pretty obvious, but maybe not.
I don't think we will, but you tell me yours.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, my winner clearly is Mike.
No, it's not. It's not.
How do you not award Mike for having, I think, the best growth arc of the Stargirl season 1, where he goes from like bratty little stepbrother to brattier little stepbrother to Pop-Tart aficionado to why do you guys hate me? Why do you always shut me out? To I want to be a part of this. To I just killed the main villain. What now? Mike is my winner of the week.
Cool. My winner for the week is Yolanda Montez. Just for having that moment, thinking that she's met up with Henry Jr., sort of having. It's weird because she sort of had a moment to kind of make up with him and then realizing that it wasn't him and taking revenge on his dad. To me, that was the big twist. That was the moment in this episode that really surprised me, that I did not see coming. And it was something that initially disappointed me. And then I was immediately elated at how they handled it. So yeah, so for me, the winner of the week is Yolanda Montez.
Both really good choices, I think. Yours is probably better than mine, I'll admit.
No, not at all. It was a toss up. I was thinking Mike, but I feel like I've had Mike as my winner a little too often this season. So I wanted to give someone else.
I'm okay
shot.
going back to that well.
All right. So that's that's the episode. So yeah. Next week, we're gonna be bringing you the first half of Lucifer season 5. And then after
Pray
that,
for us. Send coffee. Send a lot of coffee our way because it's going to be epic.
Sarah, I don't drink coffee.
I don't know how you're even sitting upright right now. How does your spine even work?
All right. So yeah, we get Lucifer, and then taking a little bit of it's not the H word. It's not the H word, but we're going to be going on a monthly schedule instead of a weekly schedule.
Yeah. We're just shaking up the schedule for the time being in these unprecedented times.
Yeah. So all right, that's the DCTV.
I said that sarcastically. Okay, go ahead.
That's the DCTV report for this week. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Little Eddie O'Hare.
And I'm at Sarah Netzley, SARANETZLEY.
And follow the show on Twitter at DCTV Report. Send along your emails to dctv@wickedtheory.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our show on your podcast app of choice and rate and review us. That helps more people find us. Check out our sister show, The Wicked Theory Podcast. This has been a Wicked Theory Studios production. Executive producer, Bill Sweeney. Visit us at wickedtheory.com. Shazam, everybody.
Shazam!
Shazam!